Good evening, guys. How are we all doing? So Dan from Trading with Dan here. This is our Bitcoin evening wrap. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we will go straight over to those charts. So Bitcoin on the 4 hour. So we lost our trend line. We bounced off our horizontal. We back tested the trend line. We came back to the horizontal, lost that horizontal. Came straight through that 10,600 area again, like a knife through butter, like we did the first time. And well, we are currently looking at back testing that old support as new resistance. So I mean, realistically, you would have to assume we're going to get rejected around this area and come back down for a swipe at the 10k level, and then we've just got to hold our breaths, haven't we? Obviously there's this level of support that we could draw. We'll just extend across this level. So I mean, maybe that will play some importance if we do come lower. But yeah, I mean, what is happening is that we followed stock markets down, and obviously the dollar went up as well, and that has basically forced Bitcoin down. So like I said, we aren't our own independent market here. We are basically being driven by the major markets basically. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to say we're going to turn around and go up here, and we will if stock markets go back up here and the dollar starts to ease off. Or if that doesn't happen, stock markets keep selling off and the dollar keeps strengthening, then we'll come down. It's not frustrating in a way, but it's just like we chart this and we look for what's going on. But ultimately, we know our main direction is being driven by things beyond our control. So we will go and have a look at that dollar index because it is making some pretty important moves here. The levels that we've been looking at, obviously number one, the trend line. Number two, this horizontal. Number three, these previous highs. And then fourth and finally is this level here, which are these previous highs. And obviously, if we start to take those out, then we do look like we will have a sort of a trend reversal on our hands, which is going to basically spell the end of everything. Basically, it looks like we've got a sort of inverted head and shoulder here on the daily. That looks good enough to get us up to the 95s alone. Yeah, so I mean, this night just below 95s is obviously an important level based on here. So maybe that's where a bullish move in the dollar would top, in the DXY at least, will top out, and then we could potentially get rejected there. But obviously the chances of this going up are obviously higher the more of these bearish structures that we break. And I did mention a good few videos back, you guys may remember, that there was an increased chance now, a 40% chance that the third quarter of this year would be basically a deflationary environment, and in which case the dollar would basically strengthen, commodities would weaken, and stocks would weaken, and clearly Bitcoin would weaken. And I mean, this is obviously what this is indicating as well. This dollar strengthening is indicating that exact thing. That is on the increase. It is on the increase, this chance that we will go into the same environment that we went into in March, when obviously everything did not do very well. We are not obviously being helped by news that we all knew anyway, that banks are happy to launder people's money. We all know they do that. I mean, there's quite a few documentaries on it. There's a good speaking of Netflix, there's a good Netflix TV series I think called Dirty Money, and there's a couple of they've got some episodes out that's specifically all about this. I think there's a whole one on HSBC, how they do it, and then a whole one on another bank, I forget which one it is, but they basically do it. And obviously all banks are involved in this money laundering stuff. They just take a few small fines and just go on about their way. Nobody obviously going to jail, nobody accountable, because that's how it works at the at the top end of the system. Laws are just for us peasants, basically. Laws are for the peasants. And obviously that's just to control us and to keep us in check. And then when you're above the peasant class, whatever you want to call them, the wealthy class, the wealthier than the wealthy class, the considerably wealthy class, then yeah, the laws don't apply to you. You can get away with whatever you want, and you do just get away with whatever you want. But anyway, so Bitcoin dominance, as you can see, getting up to our important line. Has backed off that a little bit at the moment, but again, this is looking like this is not looking well. It's looking like we've got a chance of reversing here. Obviously, it's not looking definite until, well, probably until we break above this level and start closing up here, but it is looking like it. Daily 21 looking to cross that 50. I mean, we can easily come in for a test of this daily 200, which is considerably higher, and still not realistically break the longer term structure, get rejection from there and come down. So obviously we've got to keep an eye on that. What else was driving stock markets down today? What else was I going to tell you about? There was something else as well. Oh yeah, that's it. I do believe that the I forget what it's called now. The lady that died in America, that was on one of the judiciaries or whatever, one of the panels of judges, a pretty important one. That basically is flaring up partisan politics in America, and obviously if basically the relationship between the two parties and their ability to agree on things is coming under stress, then that will by implication reduce the chances of stimulus packages being agreed on, which obviously the market doesn't like. Again, I've not really seen anyone point out this factor, but I believe that I believe they're linked personally, because a lot of it is coming down to the stimulus and basically Congress agreeing on it, which they're currently not. So obviously this is literally throwing the spanner. I mean, they're going wild, they're going nuts for this, nuts for basically Trump saying that he can't appoint a new judge before the election. I think they're just assuming he's going to lose the election, but I mean, I doubt he is, to be honest, with the state of play in the US. But yeah, they are, which is ironic because basically Obama basically did the same thing, and it was fine for him to do it, and the Democrats clearly, if they had the opportunity to do it, they would do it, and Trump is allowed to do this. It's perfectly within the Constitution, but they're just having a fit basically, and they just don't want him to, and to appoint someone that he wants to appoint. And this all I'm really trying to tell you guys is that's widening the gap. It's deteriorating the relationship between the parties, which obviously the normal American people are going to suffer because they're basically going to get delayed or not get their stimulus, their next check. But don't worry, because Wall Street all getting bailed out, companies getting bailed out. There's a million lending programs from the Fed. There's the bailout for the oil companies. There's the bailout for the airlines. Another bailout, I think, for the airlines. Bailouts for everyone, guys. All these big businesses, but just not the people. And these big businesses will still fire people. They don't care as long as the executives get rich. The share prices stay as elevated as they can do, and that's all that really matters. We'll have a look at gold, because as you can see, gold has had an expansion of volatility, dropped out of the pennant, hadn't had the move down, which was pretty much the of this pennant. It is at what would have been the target. Obviously we are expecting a bigger move overall, so if it's going to be down, it's going to come down pretty far, but will that be the case? Will they step into the market and this be like a sort of a bump and run, a fake out to the downside and break to the upside? It often happens, guys. You get that liquidity hunt to the downside, and then you basically go on a run to the upside. So if gold does recover over the next couple of trading days, that will then increase the likelihood for me that obviously we'll have the big move up to where I think it's going to land up here. We're going to keep this here for us to see whether I am correct. Silver got absolutely hammered. Yeah, as you can see, what was basically a descending triangle pretty clearly. I'm not too sure why I didn't draw that in, but I mean, you can see by looking at descending triangle, clearly broke down. I mean, that is a picture. We will actually just borrow this line now because we don't need it really. That is picture perfect. That is, guys. Picture perfect, the perfect picture of a descending triangle playing out pretty much to its target. We can draw the target where it would be. It would basically be about that far. So if I now grab this, move this over to the breakdown, well, actually, it's we slightly underperformed it. You can see, yeah. Silver broke down. So what is now for this? What is now? We've now played out this triangle. Are we going to come lower? Are we going to stabilize here, move back up? We will have to see. At the end of the day, we all know what the answer is going to depend on. It is going to depend on the direction this asset here is going to take. Let's have a look at that old NASDAQ. Actually is bouncing at the moment, as you can see here. We've got it on a 4-hour. Yeah, it lost this level, looking to regain it. So, is this a swing failure under here? Is this going to be the reversal? If this isn't the reversal, then we are pretty much done. But you know me, we've had lots of discussions about what I think of this asset and the fact that I think it is going to go up. I don't think the markets are going to crash before the elections, and they're not necessarily going to crash after the elections, but I definitely don't think they're going to let them crash before the elections. So yeah, let's have a look at one last, the SPX. How is that SPX doing? Well, came down and tested our line, didn't it? This is what we're looking at if we lost this level, and you can see how it all lines up. I mean, this line's just basically come from this level here just to the tick. Look at it, to the absolute tick. To the absolute tick, and we did come down pretty much the absolute tick to our last line as well, bounced off it, then broke through it, and yeah, so we have actually got it to the the tick, then literally bounced up to back up to the top level, almost to the tick. So hey, you guys know I much prefer horizontal. This is why I prefer horizontals. Just draw them from where you need to draw them from. And then they're good targets. Basically, they are good targets. The reason why I like horizontal, because at the end of the day, horizontals are basically a price level that remains constant going back. So these price targets and price levels are in people's minds. From when it hit here, that was always a level. It was always with the same number. With non-horizontal lines, the number changes. It changes, and yeah, and they are important. They do have their uses. I do use them. I do draw them. But this number, this actual point of breakout varies. So you have to be watching the trend line and watching what is going on. Whereas with the horizontals, you can not look at the chart, know the number in your head, know where we got up to at that point. These numbers can be significant to you, and then that is well, where people can potentially make decisions. So yeah, anyway, so let's have a look at some of those TD sequentials. Obviously we're not going to have anything. We may be coming up on something on the 4-hour. I know we were just on the 4-hour and I didn't see anything, but yeah, no, nothing on the 4-hour. Yeah, the 12-hour and the daily 9, pretty much once we lost that candle, acceleration to the downside, and once we lost the low of that candle, acceleration to the downside. Nothing on the weekly, and then again over to our master chart. Our master bi-weekly 9. I mean, we are still safely in this zone here. It's a massive zone, but this is these are bi-weekly candles, so these are obviously larger time frame candles. Realistically, as long as we're holding the 10k, we are okay. We can play in this range from 10k to basically 12k. Whilst we play out the sell-off from this bi-weekly 9, and to be honest, it will be okay. I mean, 10,600 on the time frames that we're looking at is clearly important. I mean, and that does coincide with the top of these. So obviously, when you look at a lot smaller time frame, these wicks are actually going to be full bodies on smaller time frame candles, which is obviously why that level is important level around 10,600. But actually, looking at the bi-weekly, realistically the level is 10k. As long as we hold 10k, we are looking good. So I mean, not that I'm making excuses for losing the 10.6 level again, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you can see it. You can see it right here how it looks. As long as we're holding the 10k, then we are okay. But we don't want to be hanging around down here because clearly it just increases the chance we can break through. So and then it will be over. Then it will be game over. So yeah, it's a very important few days. I mean, I would say for Bitcoin, but it's not really. It's based on what stock markets and the dollar do. But yeah, obviously we've had the Monday. It's happened again basically. Monday, people have come in, probably looked at their stuff over the weekend and thought, right, I want out of this. But also, I mean, we did obviously have the bad banking news. That reminds me, let's have a look at the XLF. I don't think it's actually doing that bad today compared to a lot of the rest of the market. Well, yeah, it's down a little bit. It's actually down 3%. So if you compare that to, yeah, it is down. Not quite as much as down as the wider Russell. But yeah, XLF sold off a bit today, as you can see. Coming out of his pennant now, though. So is that it? Is it done? Is it going to drop? Are we done? We will obviously find out in due course. But I mean, you guys know my views on the financials, that they're just rubbish. And there we are dropping out in the direction that I'd expect us to. But obviously you guys also know I like gold and silver, and they also dropping down in the direction that that is not the way I expect them to go to. So obviously I'm not gonna pretend that I get everything right. But hey, we'll see what happens longer term. Longer term, I do think the financials are done, and longer term, I do think gold and silver will be up, regardless of a particular individual day's price action. Yeah, 4 hour, it was coming down. 4 hours coming down, looking like it's looking a bit bottomy. I guess toppy is a word, so we could call it bottomy. Looking like it could potentially start to put in a bottom there. 10 hour coming down nice and strongly. Obviously looking good for a bearish for the bearish momentum there. And 12 hour, I mean, it's as simple as that, isn't it, guys? When did the 12 hour top and start to come down? Basically the 16th and 17th. Where was price action on the 16th and 17th? Oh, actually, it had a little more pop to the upside, but we are basically considerably lower than that now. And then also we were talking about actually when we actually came down back into the purple, which was the 20th. So if we then look at the 20th, yeah, that was pretty much when we were done. The 20th, that was when you can just sell at any point, and we came straight down. So the 12-hour Stokes strikes again. 2 day up, but not looking too good. 3 day has now finally turned up, and 5 day hasn't. But yeah, 3 day has turned up. I think actually we saw that before. It's 5 day and weekly that hadn't. So yeah. We are basically in a zone of destruction for well, in the dollar for markets as a whole, but in Bitcoin, yeah, in a zone of in a zone of what does not look good for this sort of medium term time frame. I mean, large time frame still looks okay. But yeah, we've got to basically markets got to sort themselves out. If they don't, then we're just gonna have prolonged downside really. Once we do fully and formally establish a downtrend, I think it's gonna take quite a lot to basically turn that around, especially from the elevated levels we are at. So yeah, very important. I say this a lot. Very important week, guys. Coming up, very important week. And realistically, you just got to be watching the dollar. You have got to be watching stock markets. And just by looking at those two, you're going to know what Bitcoin's doing. Whether it's going to go up and down, whether it is going up or down based off those two. So yeah, that is it, guys. Sorry I don't have any better news to tell you guys, but we're just gonna have to wait to see what happens to the stock markets. And yeah, like I said, I think the real problem stock markets have got, and not just that banking stuff, because I don't really think, I mean, that affects banks too much. We all know they do that stuff. Everyone knows it's known. I think the problem is the breakdown, just the decreased likelihood of stimulus coming. That's it. That, to put it bluntly and simply, that is what has happened. There is a a widening of the gap between the parties, even wider than it was before. So yeah, difficult times, guys, difficult times. So we will see what happens in these markets during the course of the rest of the week, and yeah, and I will speak to you guys in the morning.